I need to find where the quote was, but in Ruby, you typically hear, everything is an object.
Mm-hmm.
In Elixir and Erlang, you may hear everything is a process. So processes are kind of a whole nother level, and it's actually how you can store state that hangs around. It's not within the functions, but it's within these processes. Now, of course, you can store state by saving something to the database, but I'll kind of explore what processes are. So in Elixir, a process is not an operating system process. So there's not a one-to-one comparison of an Elixir process to an operating system process. It's actually an Erlang process that's handling it. And it's not a thread. It's separate from the considerations of thread. So don't think of it as a thread. So it's exactly what it says here. It's a lightweight implementation using the actor model of concurrency. So what is that? So what's the actor model? So it's a system of independent processes or actors that can send and receive messages like an object in Ruby, but each has its own memory space. And each actor, so again, each Elixir process or Erlang process has its own address and a mailbox that seriously processes messages asynchronously. Now, I think you can use this actor model in other programming languages. But this is primarily what Erlang and Elixir do to be able to handle their high concurrency. So it's basically you have just independent processes that have mailboxes in front of them, and you can send it a message, and eventually you're going to get a message back.
So, all right. So
this is a continuously running process, so it can store stuff within that process. And what I mean by store stuff is that it can store something in memory or keep something resident in that process, like a variable. So if you needed to instantiate something to remember something, you would do it as a process as opposed to, say, creating an object in Ruby with an instance variable or something like that.
So I'm a little confused. I'm having a bit of a disconnect here with how this is different from an instantiated object like a PORO, just an instantiated PORO, but because if I instantiate something, I send information into it, it does some stuff, and then gives me information back. And that's essentially an actor model. So how is this different to that?
I'll have to look up the actor model. I can't recall exactly, but I know one thing that makes Elixir different is the concept of being asynchronous. Now, I'm sure you could, by default, Ruby with you creating an object, instantiating it, setting a value, asking for a value, that all happens synchronously.
Well, per worker, yes. But if I instantiate an object, that instance of that object has its own memory space, and I can instantiate a bunch of them.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is that, but if something needs to get information from a specific object, that's a synchronous request to get that.
Oh, true. Yes.
So I'm saying what this has, it has these processes have a mailbox in front of it. So basically, any request comes in and it needs to wait, and it seriously, exactly. It serially processes the messages asynchronously. So this gives you higher concurrency without having to worry about threading or having to worry about multiple processes accessing the same object concurrently.
Okay. All right. I think
it's similar, but it's similar but different, clear as mud.
Right. Well, and I think if we're just talking about the actor model in general, because you can do that in object-oriented programming too. I mean, the actor model exists there, so it's the same concept, I think. Just the implementations internally would be different here, but
yeah. But I'm just saying this is how one would store state.
right.
You know, you use modules that just have pure functions. So
Yeah.
you don't instantiate any kind of an object, but you may fire up a process that retains certain values for you that you can query on and ask that to be changed. So you don't change anything directly. You kind of request of that process, hey, update your value. And it'll, I think usually the implementations, you do an immediate return, and then at some point it will get around to doing it. Although I think you can't, no, you can do asynchronous call as well, but then you're hindering your concurrency if you do that.
Might as well be doing OO at that point.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.